"He's my son," the woman whispered. She was standing in the emergency room of County General Hospital, and the man bleeding on the table in front of her was supposed to be dead. He was supposed to have been dead for 20 years. "He's my son, and no one is supposed to know that he's alive." Her name was Catherine Brennan. She was 68 years old. She had not spoken those words in 2 decades. She had not told a single person that her son was alive. She had carried this secret like a stone in her chest for 20 years, and now, because a man named David Mitchell had been shot protecting a stranger, the secret was about to shatter the life she'd built. 20 years earlier, Catherine's son had been 17 years old. His name was Michael. He was angry. He was the kind of angry that comes from losing your father too young, from watching your mother work 3 jobs, from understanding that the world was not going to give you anything you didn't take. He ran with a crew, not a motorcycle club. This was before motorcycles. Just a crew of angry teenagers who did angry things. One night, Michael and his friends robbed a convenience store. The owner tried to stop them. Michael was holding the gun. Michael's hand was shaking. Michael was scared. And when the gun went off, it wasn't on purpose. It was accident. But the store owner died. He died in his daughter's arms, and Michael became a murderer at 17 years old. The trial was brutal. The prosecutor wanted life. The judge wanted to make an example. The evidence was clear. Michael's fingerprints on the gun, his voice on the security footage, his Dina at the scene. There was no question about guilt. But Catherine's lawyer, a good lawyer, a lawyer she couldn't afford but who took the case anyway, found something. He found that Michael had been severely abused by his father for his entire childhood, that his father had been arrested twice for domestic violence, that his father had been institutionalized for psychiatric episodes, that the rage Michael carried wasn't just teenage stupidity. It was inherited trauma. The judge agreed to reduce the sentence. Instead of life, Michael got 25 to 35 years. He was 18 years old. He was going to be 43 before he could even be considered for parole. Catherine visited him every week for the first year. And then she couldn't anymore. It was too painful. It was too hard to see her son behind glass, to talk to him through a phone, to know that he had his whole life ahead of him and it was going to be spent in a cage. She missed a week, then 2 weeks, then a month, and then one day she got a call from the prison. Michael had been involved in a riot. Michael had been stabbed. Michael had been badly injured. And when Catherine rushed to the hospital, she found out that Michael was in critical condition. The doctors didn't think he would survive. But he did survive. He survived the stab wound. He survived the infection. He survived 18 months of recovery. And when he recovered, he called Catherine, and he said something that changed everything. "I don't want you to visit me anymore," he said. "I don't want you to know where I am. I don't want you to carry this. You're going to let me go. You're going to tell people that I'm dead. You're going to move on with your life. And you're never going to speak my name again." "I can't do that," Catherine said. "You have to," Michael said. "Because the only thing that kept me alive in this prison is knowing that you're out there, living. If I know you're suffering, I'm going to stop wanting to live. So you're going to let me go. You're going to live the life I can't live. And you're going to do it for both of us." Catherine hung up the phone, and she did what her son asked. She let him go. She didn't visit again. She didn't write letters. She didn't call. She told people that Michael had died in prison. She told people that the grief had been too much. She moved to a different city. She got a job. She built a life. And she carried the secret of Michael's survival like a stone in her chest for 20 years. She never remarried. She never had other children. She poured all of her love into her work as a nurse. She worked in the emergency room at County General Hospital. She saved lives. She saw people at their worst moments, and she treated them with the specific kindness that comes from understanding that life is fragile, that people are fragile. That one moment can change everything. She had worked at County General for 18 years when David Mitchell came in with a gunshot wound. He was 42 years old. He was a biker. He was carrying an ID that said his name was David Mitchell, and he lived 3 states away. But when Catherine looked at his face, she saw something she hadn't seen in 20 years. She saw her son. She didn't cry out. She didn't make a scene. She called for the doctor. She prepared the surgical bay. She moved through her training like she was on autopilot. She was focused. She was professional. And inside, she was shattering. After surgery, David Mitchell was in recovery. He was stable. He would survive. And Catherine went to his room. She looked at him sleeping, and she whispered the words that she'd been carrying for 20 years. "Hello, Michael." He woke up. He looked at her. And for a moment, just a moment, he didn't recognize her. 20 years had aged her. She was different. But then something clicked. Some deep part of him that was still 17, still her son, recognized the voice. "Mom?" he said. And Catherine broke. She broke in a way she hadn't let herself break in 20 years. She broke because her son was alive. She broke because she could finally stop lying. She broke because the stone in her chest was finally being lifted. "What are you doing here?" Michael asked. His voice was weak. He'd just come out of surgery. He was in pain. But he was alive, and his mother was in front of him. "I work here," Catherine said. "I've worked here for 18 years. I didn't know you were coming. I didn't know you were in this city. I didn't know that you were. I thought you were still in prison." Michael looked away. "I got out," he said, 3 years ago. Good behavior. Early release. I didn't come find you because you asked me not to, because I honored your request. I became David Mitchell. I got a motorcycle. I got a life, and I was trying to be the man you raised me to be." "What happened?" Catherine asked. "What were you shot for?" Michael was quiet for a long time, and then he told her the truth. He told her that he'd been at a gas station. A man was assaulting a woman. The man had a gun. Michael had tried to stop him. The gun had gone off. The bullet hit Michael instead of the woman, and the woman had done something that surprised him. She had shielded him with her own body. She had covered his wound with her hands, and she had called for help, and she had stayed with him even though he was a stranger. "She saved my life," Michael said. "This woman I've never met. She covered me with her own body, and she protected me. And it made me think about you. It made me think about how you've been protecting me my whole life. How you've been carrying this secret. How you've been living with the weight of me being alive and not being able to tell anyone." Catherine was crying now. She was crying in a way she hadn't cried in 20 years. She was crying because her son was in front of her, alive. And he understood. He understood what it had cost her to let him go. "I have to ask you something," Michael said. "Why did you shield me?" "What do you mean?" Catherine asked. "At the gas station. You were working when I came in. You didn't know I was a biker. You didn't know I was dangerous, at least. You shouldn't have known. But when the gun went off, you threw yourself over me. You protected me with your body. Why?" And then Catherine understood. The woman who had shielded Michael at the gas station wasn't just some random person. It was her. Catherine had been working a shift at the hospital. She'd needed a break. She'd gone to the gas station to get coffee. and when violence had erupted, she'd acted on instinct. She'd protected a stranger with her own body. She hadn't known it was her son. "I was just trying to help," Catherine said. "You didn't know it was me," Michael said. "You couldn't have known. And you still protected me. You've been protecting me my whole life. You let me go because you thought it would be better for me. You lived in silence because I asked you to. You carried this weight. And then, when you had the chance to protect a stranger, you did the same thing. You didn't ask questions. You just put yourself between danger and someone else." Michael reached out, and he took Catherine's hand. It was the first time they'd touched in 20 years. "I'm tired of you carrying this alone," Michael said. "I'm tired of you living in silence. I want you to tell people the truth. I want you to tell people that your son is alive. I want you to stop pretending. I want you to let me back into your life. And I want to be the man you raised me to be, the man who protects people. The man who understands that life is precious. The man who knows that sometimes a stranger will shield you with their own body, and you have to live in a way that honors that sacrifice." Catherine nodded. She couldn't speak. She just held her son's hand, and she nodded. The secret came out slowly. Catherine told her supervisor. She told her friends. She told her sister, who cried because she'd been carrying the burden of the lie with Catherine for 20 years. She told the hospital. The hospital understood. Catherine was a good nurse. Catherine had saved lives. Catherine had been protecting someone she loved. The hospital kept her employed. Michael recovered from his gunshot wound. He left the hospital after 2 weeks. And instead of disappearing again, he stayed. He got an apartment in the same city as his mother. He started working construction, honest work, the kind of work his grandfather had done. He became Michael Brennan again instead of David Mitchell. He became his mother's son. But something had shifted. The secret that had been eating him alive for 20 years, the secret that Catherine had been carrying for both of them, was finally exposed. And in the exposure, something healed. Catherine didn't have to lie anymore. Michael didn't have to hide anymore. They didn't have to be ashamed anymore. 1 year after Michael came back into Catherine's life, they decided to do something. They decided to tell the real story. They decided to give interviews. They decided to talk about how a single moment of violence had separated them for 20 years, and how another moment of violence had brought them back together. Catherine talked about the weight of the secret. She talked about working as a nurse while pretending her son was dead. She talked about shielding a stranger at a gas station without knowing it was her own child. She talked about the silence that had nearly destroyed her. Michael talked about accepting his mother's sacrifice. He talked about becoming David Mitchell to protect her. He talked about understanding, in the moment that his mother covered him with her body, that love was the only thing that actually mattered. That power, status, freedom, none of it meant anything compared to having someone willing to sacrifice themselves for you. The story went viral. Not in the way viral stories usually go viral. This story went deep. This story touched something in people. It was about mothers and sons. It was about the sacrifices we make for the people we love. It was about the idea that sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is shield someone with your own body. That sometimes love means saying goodbye. That sometimes love means coming back. That sometimes love means finally telling the truth. Catherine and Michael started a nonprofit. They called it the Shield Foundation. It's dedicated to helping families of incarcerated people. They provide therapy. They provide legal support. They provide the one thing that Catherine didn't have for 20 years. They provide community. They provide the knowledge that you're not alone in carrying this weight. The foundation now serves 3,000 families a year. 3,000 families who are living the silent life that Catherine lived. 3,000 families who are choosing to let their loved ones go so those loved ones can survive. 3,000 families who are finally, through the work of Catherine and Michael, getting the support they need. Catherine is now 74 years old. Michael is 49. They see each other every day. They have lunch together. They talk about the years they lost. They talk about the stone in Catherine's chest that took 20 years to lift. They talk about the moment at the gas station when Catherine shielded Michael with her own body without knowing it was her son. That's when I understood, Catherine says, that love isn't something you control. Love isn't something you can put away. Love is something that moves through you. It was moving through me the moment I covered that stranger, and I didn't even know it was my own child. Love was protecting him even before my mind knew who he was. Michael understands this too. He understands that his mother's sacrifice, her willingness to let him go, her willingness to carry the secret alone, her willingness to shield a stranger with her own body. Those things are what made him the man he is. They made him someone who understands that protection is love, that sacrifice is power, that sometimes the strongest thing you can do is stand between danger and someone else. The silence between Catherine and Michael now is different from the silence that came before. The silence that came before was the silence of a secret. The silence that comes now is the silence of understanding. They don't need to speak. They just sit together. Mother and son. 20 years of separation finally collapsed into the space of a simple moment. Catherine still works at County General Hospital. She still treats people at their worst moments. But now, when she sees families who are broken by addiction, by incarceration, by the specific pain of loving someone who has done wrong, she can tell them something with authority. She can tell them that the weight doesn't have to be carried alone. She can tell them that sometimes the people we love need us to let them go. She can tell them that sometimes, through grace or chance or love that moves through us without our knowing, we get a second chance. And she can tell them about shielding someone with your own body. About the moment when love is so specific, so pure, so complete, that it doesn't ask questions. It just acts. It just protects. It just loves. Michael rides his motorcycle through the city where his mother works. He rides it past the gas station where his mother protected him with her own body. He rides it every day, and every day he thinks about the 20 years of silence. He thinks about his mother's sacrifice. He thinks about the weight she carried, and he rides in gratitude for the moment when that weight could finally be lifted. The motorcycle sounds different now. It sounds like forgiveness. It sounds like two people understanding that some things are worth waiting for. It sounds like a mother and son who spent 20 years in silence and found each other again at the moment when violence nearly took him away. And in that silence, in the space between Catherine's heartbeat and Michael's heartbeat, there is understanding. There is the knowledge that love is not something you control. Love is something that shields you, whether you know it or not. Love is something that moves through you. Love is something that will, eventually, bring you home. The stone in Catherine's chest is finally gone, and in the space where it was, there is only her son's hand in hers, and the knowledge that 20 years of separation have been healed in a single moment of recognition, that her sacrifice has been honored, that her love, even though she tried to contain it, tried to silence it, tried to put it away, that her love found its way back to her. That is the real secret. Not that Michael was alive, but that love never dies. That love never lets go. That love will shield you with its own body, even if it doesn't know you're the one being protected.